Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. We are here with our friend and trusted producer, Max Kerman. We also have our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. And rejoining us this week after missing last week is Erica working the dials. Erica, welcome back. Guys, this is an emergency pod, somewhat emergency, called by Max. Last night, he said, guys, let's record a pod. Things have gone crazy. The world is insane. Let's get together and talk about this. So we're going to talk about this. But I actually had one question, Erica, when you jumped on here. So last episode, the three of us recorded it old school style, and then we sent you the files to edit. For you as an experience, like you're going to hear this pod, then you're going to go edit it. Do you prefer to like hear it fresh, like you haven't been there? Like, do you like to be surprised at what we talked about?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it makes the editing a little bit more, just more fun, I guess. But yeah, I think I actually do prefer to edit when I haven't heard the episode.
Interesting.
To be honest.
Were we good?
Yeah, it was great. There was quite a few technical issues, so those obviously suck. Those are better to anticipate if I'm on the call. Mm-hmm. But other than that, yeah, great episode, you guys. It was very funny. I laughed a lot.
Very good.
Yeah.
Actually, Shane, your mother-in-law, I saw. The lovely Lorna commented on the Mike on Much Instagram page about how much she liked the episode.
Yeah, I wonder if it's real though. Sometimes I can't tell. Because I know John, my father-in-law, John is a huge fan of podcasts, and I know Lorna is very supportive, but Lorna isn't as into listening to every episode. And I can't imagine her having listened to that episode for some reason. But I think the comment might have been just a nice comment. She saw other people were saying it was funny. So she's like, oh, this Shane will like that I'm supporting him. Because was that a funny episode? Like, what was the funny parts? I thought we got real serious in that one.
Well, we did. We talked about your pop-up ads that would pop up. We also talked about
the porno things. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it was funny. I don't know. I'll ask her though. I'm going to text her right after this, actually.
I was wondering, I can't imagine in a million years that my father-in-law would listen to a whole episode of our podcast. But I was wondering if he did, because since the episode came out, we started working on the deck and putting it back together, and he gave me more responsibility. I was doing like a lot more drilling and stuff. Like he was like, hey, Mike, come over here. Do you want to do this? And I'm like, is this natural? Did he hear about it? Did someone tell him about it? But it's going great, guys. Thanks for asking. But why are we here? Max, I'm going to let you take it because you're the one that sent it to the group. You said, let's get together. Let's talk about this. It's all gone wild.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was just hitting me extra hard yesterday, but I happened to be kind of in front of the TV because I know Sunday is family day for you, Shane. I didn't know if Mike would be, watching CNN like myself, but in real time, the Trump joyride was happening. And I was like, this is so fucking funny. The video that he put out yesterday, just before he went on the joyride, he had this like glimmer in his eye. And I think Trump can be a really like kind of nasty, malicious kind of person in a lot of occasions. But I thought this was just like a moment of just like childlike joy and excitement that he was sort of experienced because he was, I think, kind of bored because usually Sundays he gets to go on the political shows, and then he usually talks to Sean Hannity, I think, for like an hour, and he can get into like whatever's happening to him then. But he wasn't tweening at all. And of course, this morning he really went off on a big Twitter storm. So I think he was just like, I need to do something. And I think
what joyride? What is this?
Okay,
you didn't
No.
Oh, okay, Shane, you don't know what happened?
No. It's family day, man.
Mike, you.
So
this is great then. Okay, this makes it more fun.
Since we last recorded a podcast, obviously the president tested positive for COVID-19. You do know that, right, Shane?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. And then since then, many people in his administration have also tested positive. It seems to have all tied back to this this event in the Rose Garden.
What are they calling it, Mike? The Rose Garden Massacre?
Oh, yeah, like the Red Wedding. It's like the super spreader event where basically all of these people were maskless and hugging and, all the things that we've been saying not to do for the last 8 months. And so a bunch of these people did get it. Obviously, the world knows that Trump is one of them. So he's sort of been in the hospital since I think it was the Thursday they flew him out there, or the Friday. I'm not quite sure, but he's kind of been pent up and not doing anything. And apparently, like it was serious and bad, and they had to get him on some therapeutic drugs and then a steroid. It's like he was taking all the things that basically you need to take to combat it when you do have it bad. But But then by Sunday, I guess he was starting to feel a little bit better. And all of these people started to gather outside the hospital, like he's Michael Jackson or something like that. And they like all of his fans started to congregate to like where he's at. And so he just put on Twitter like this video of him saying, I've got a little surprise for you. I've been fighting. I really understand COVID now. I've gone to like COVID college. I know the real deal now. And I might have a little surprise for you. Maybe by the time you see this, the surprise will happen. All of a sudden, he's in a fucking SUV with like Secret Service guys doing laps around the fucking hospital while his people like celebrate and like wave flags and hold up signs.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
So everybody's like, what is Trump doing? This is wild. I mean, there was a myriad of takes other than sort of the narcissistic nature of what he's doing. Maybe if you're pro-Trump, you would say, oh, he was trying to inspire his base and show them that he's strong enough to get out and get in a car. I just see one tweet that's like, hey guys, we know how much strength it takes to sit in a car. So, he must be doing well. But and then there's also the other side where people said it was so wildly selfish and dangerous that the Secret Service guys in the car with them, who although they were wearing the protective equipment, it's like they're in a hermetically sealed like presidential vehicle with somebody who is COVID positive. So anyway, there's been this whole spectrum of things. But yeah, I guess Max, what were your first thoughts when you saw the joyride, as you called it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny that for a guy who has access to every single piece of information in the world, and this pandemic has been raging and been the only thing anybody's talking about for 8 months, he goes, oh, I know what it means now. I get it. It's like going to school, not the book school, the real school. So it's like, hold on a second. It's the only way you could possibly relate to what hundreds of thousands of people and millions of people have suffered through. Is you getting it yourself? This is the only way you can do it. And there was a bunch of takes that I found Twitter to be particularly like funny yesterday. And there was a lot of outrage for the Secret Service people who obviously like signed up to protect the president at any cost. But there was a good tweet saying like, I didn't think I agreed to take a bullet for the president. I didn't think the president would be the one with the gun, which I thought was well put. And I was just thinking about like this week just being so crazy. And, someone pointed out it was literally a week ago that the taxes came out. And I know we always talk about how time moves so quickly these days, but that feels like forever ago. When did RBG pass? What day was that? Was that a few days before that? I think it went from RBG to taxes to the debate, because like SNL was trying to, riff on the debate. That even felt like forever ago. And of course, like, one by one, all these people in the Rose Garden are getting it. The press secretary today just announced that she got it and two of her deputies underneath her have it. So yeah, was just wondering, like, what do you think, like, is there any fallout? Is America so divided that it doesn't matter? Or do you think this is going to be, one of the last straws that really does it in for Trump? Because it's so close to the election? Or does something like this have to happen like a week before? Because I've been thinking a lot about the timing of all this. And, something can happen in July that really has no consequence. Like a big thing can happen in July that has no consequence for the election in November. But it feels like, the biggest tricks or the biggest events have to happen in the last like 2 weeks before an election for people to really say they've had enough. At least the people in the middle that are kind of going to decide the election.
Well, this could be a good stunt, though, because if he gets over COVID and he's like, oh, I feel healthier than ever, then it's proving that COVID's not all that bad. And he's at an advanced age and he's like, see, look, now I'm immune. Now I can do anything. And he'll come up with a lot of jokes and just downplay COVID. Like, I think this is actually a good move for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like the one thing they got to hit him on though is it's like so many people that have struggled with COVID or passed away from COVID, it's like they had to die alone in a hospital. It's like, yeah, he's doing fine because he received these state-of-the-art therapeutics. He's the benefit of like 7 months of like the best drugs being developed. He got helicoptered to a hospital where he's staying on a floor with a team of like 10 doctors that are all making sure it's like not every, again, that's a nuanced thought though, to your point, Shane, whereas it's like his base is just going to be like, yeah, man, he's a superhero. He fought.
He'll downplay the medical care and just upplay one, how physically fit he is, and two, how COVID's just overrated.
I did enjoy when the doctors were giving the update, the very first update, like on that first day, they all come out and they got like this team of 8 or 10 doctors outside of Walter Reed Hospital. And they're asking questions of like the main doctor. And he's talking about why it is concerning. He's like, well, he does have some issues, you know, his age. Obviously he's a little overweight. And I'm like, if Trump is sitting in his room watching this, I just see him be like,
that's all I was thinking of. I was watching that exact same clip, and I saw it live too, and that's all I could think of.
Well, you know, CNN makes at every opportunity they go, we have a president who's obese.
Yeah.
He's obese. He's 73 years old. He's obese. Like, I'm sure that drives him nuts.
It sure does. Well, you know, you Max, you mentioned how fast news moves. I keep thinking about, so I don't know if you guys even caught this story, but right before the COVID diagnosis, like maybe like even like a couple hours, maybe, I can't remember, but within that 24 hours, these secretly recorded tapes of Melania Trump talking about Christmas were released. Did you guys see this story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically one of her aides, like one of her assistants or whatever, taped their conversation where Melania is talking about Christmas, I guess last year, maybe the year before, but it was around the time that when they were putting the kids in cages at the border and all that stuff, separating families. They're talking to Melania and she's going on about how she's got to decorate the Christmas tree and the rose garden or whatever. And she's like, I don't give a fuck about Christmas. That's what she said. That was like her quote. So like, these tapes get released. This aide literally puts her like political career, like she's never going to work on the right again. And she probably won't work on the left. She's probably done in politics because it's like, regardless of her releasing those tapes, it's like, you do not do that. Like, it's like you had a job to do. You're releasing these tapes. It literally was in the news for maybe a few hours. This woman, she's on Anderson Cooper. You can see like, she's like, this was her moment to basically like be, I guess, a whistleblower on Melania being, I guess, you know, not giving a shit about Christmas. Yeah, I guess. But it's such like, ultimately it's kind of a fluff story. It's like, I guess a personality hit, but at the end of the day, or a hypocritical thing. But she was on with Anderson Cooper. Like this woman was like, this is my moment. And then within a few hours, the president Melania tests positive and nobody talked about that story again. And that woman blew up her whole career.
Wow. Why doesn't Melania like Christmas? Because of consumerism or other, like what was her main problem?
She didn't get into it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem that bad not to like Christmas. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Did you guys watch SNL this week?
Yeah.
What did you guys think of it?
I thought, you know, it was a weaker episode for sure, I thought. Like Chris Rock's not the greatest person at reading cue cards too, so that hurts. And I know he has a learning disability and it's not easy for him, but I just feel like, yeah, he's kind of he's an amazing stand-up and I like him giving a monologue, like a stand-up style monologue, but when he gets in a sketch, it just falls apart.
Yeah, I thought his opening monologue wasn't even that great.
No, me either.
And I was wondering if that just had to do with the fact that he hasn't been able to go to the comedy club for
he was on Howard Stern
end.
talking about that actually, how that hurt his performance or was going to hurt his performance because he couldn't really work it out and he's scared of cell phones being videotaped and it leaking, and yeah, it definitely was very rusty and you could see a lot of places where he could have truncated it.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think, back to Trump for a second, what do you think would have to happen for this to really make a dent in his reelection bid? Like, because I was thinking, is somebody gonna have to die? Because if everybody who's gotten COVID-19 in the White House, and there's like a dozen people that are affected so far, I think, if they all end up being okay in 7 to 10 days, and they're back at it, obviously the numbers are surging right now, but there's still a lot of people who don't take it that seriously or don't know anybody who's been sick by it. Do you think there'd be like a defining incident that would really do him in?
Well, if Trump dies, there's not a chance of him winning the election. And people,
hey, that's a pretty bold take. Are you sure you want to stand by that?
But it's really, if he does, like he's most likely to die of all the people who've contracted it, right? That's going to be a real game changer if he does. Just to state the obvious. That's all I've got.
Yeah.
But if he does, like nobody knows what will happen because a portion of the country's already voted on a ballot that has his name on it, right? So it's like if something bad happened, like do those votes just go to Pence? Like it's going to be very confusing.
Yeah,
Nobody
dead guy
knows.
can't win, right?
No, I know.
Or can
exactly.
he? That would be unprecedented.
Mike, what was your favorite moment of the week, or the most confounding moment for you, would you say, out of everything that happened this week?
I mean, yeah, it's been a crazy week. Obviously, like it's starting with the debate on Tuesday. We're just, Danica and I are watching it. It's pretty wild. The Wednesday night, I think I can't remember what night the news came out that Hope Hicks, the aide to the president, who's really close to him, had tested positive. But me and Dan were watching TV, and it's just around 10 or something. It was like, wow, it's crazy. And I went to bed like pretty early that night for me, and the next morning, Danica woke me up like at like 6 a.m. or something. She went to get the baby, and then she like started yelling my name, and I was kind of like, this is my morning to sleep in or whatever. And then she's like, she's like, Mike. She's like, I think you would want me to wake you up. I'm like, yeah. So like I jump up, and I'm like, what's up? And she's like, Trump has tested positive for COVID, and I was like, whoa. And then like you immediately like shoot out of bed, you know what I mean? Like a vampire out of the coffin. And like you grab the phone and then you're staring at it. And Max, I saw your tweet, which I thought was great, which is like, as a guy who tends to get up and pee in the middle of the night and looks at his phone, stupidly, I'm actually feeling like it's finally paid off or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what happened. Cause I was at home and it was 2 a.m. go up to go to the bathroom, check my phone. And I don't believe my eyes, because when you're like half asleep when you're going to the bathroom at night, and I'm like looking at the discovery page on Twitter, I'm like, Trump has COVID? Like, am I dreaming right now? Like, you're just like in this very odd state. And then I check, I'm in a group text with manager Ash and book club Maddie, and they're night owls, and it is blowing up, and there's like so much going on, and they're like wide awake. It's, at this point, the news has been out for like an hour. And I'm just like reading it. Like, I can't believe it. And then like, I did the same thing. Lauren's sleeping. I kind of like hit her. I'm like, Lauren, get up. Trump has COVID. She's like, what? And then she's like, okay, I'm going back to bed. I was like, what? It was crazy. Yeah. And it just like, the other thing, which, I've been thinking a lot about celebrities who become politicians, and, they all, even if they're like kind of a ridiculous celebrity, like who's Jesse Ventura, the governor in Minnesota, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jesse Ventura, obviously a wrestler, Arnold Schwarzenegger, movie star. There's been a lot of like in Canada, Seamus O'Regan, who was an actor, right? Was he on this line? Whose line is it anyway? Or what's he been in? You know what I'm talking about? Seamus, he's like a Newfoundlander. Anyway, all these people that were in show business that go into politics, they all like, make an agreement mostly with themselves that like any of the fun that I had or the freewheeling that I got to do as a famous person, as a celebrity, doesn't really apply to me. Like, I'm a public figure and I'm accountable to the people. But none of that has applied to Trump at all, like on any level. Like, he just like has not obeyed by that rule. And you're hearing the stories like the New York Times writer who's flown on Air Force One. He got it, and he wasn't even notified by. No. He wasn't notified by anybody. Tell anybody.
They were trying to keep it under wraps.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so it's just like that level of chaos. And because Trump hasn't like hired anybody new, it's just really like a family business running the show. And, there's all sorts of family businesses. Like, you can imagine some in like downtown Hamilton. We're like, oh yeah, the grandpa, the dad, he's still sort of in charge, but the operations are really a gong show. You know what I mean? It's totally that, but it's obviously out of the White House now.
Shane, how did you hear about it?
I think I just woke up normal, and it was on Instagram.
Oh,
yeah.
Were you surprised by it?
Not really. No, I wasn't that surprised like you. I thought he would have got it sooner. And then I was like, oh, maybe it was like the NBA bubble. I thought, oh, somebody in the NBA bubble is going to get COVID. Mind you, no one has yet and probably won't now that it's so close to the end. But I was betting on the NBA bubble, someone getting it, and all the other leagues, people seem to have gotten it. But I was like, Trump's going to get it sooner or later. And then he got it. And then I was kind of excited. But then Alex walked downstairs and I was like, oh, Trump has COVID. And it was that thing where it was too late. She's like, oh, I know. I woke up in the middle of the night. And it was kind of like, I was kind of like, I wanted to break that news.
Yeah.
Do you think that Trump? Okay, so like on Sunday, I was getting off on the news. Like, I was kind of like in a giddy mood. It's like a really like addicting drug when stuff like this like begins to happen. This whole week has sort of been like that, where you're like what do I want to watch on TV? It's like, well, the best show by far is CNN. And because it's like, because you couldn't write it. Like we were joking how like this is sort of out of a Veep episode where it's like, okay, we're in the hospital. We need to show the American people that we have strength and that we're doing well. Let's do a little drive. Let's go wave. Like you can imagine, they'd even say that, oh, that's probably a little too much. Like no politician would actually do that. But Trump does this every single time. Do you think, I guess my question for you guys, do you think Trump gets off on it in the way that we get off on it? Because he's kind of playful about it. As much as he acts like a mad, crazy person and he acts like he's angry, I think he's just into the drama. Like he genuinely just like loves the excitement of it. He's a child in that way, right? Would you agree?
Of course. And I think he likes the way he's getting compassion from people who normally wouldn't be compassionate towards him. So he likes the sympathy. I think he really likes it. Every time his name's mentioned, I think he likes it, good or bad.
He got a letter from Obama. He got sentiments from Joe, like, you know, and then his first address where he's like all of the really kind words, which have really been bipartisan. You know, he's shocked by this. To your question, Max, I think the thing with Trump is like everything for him is like, it's all about like the show. He's like a carnival barker, right? So he's like the way he presents and the way it's perceived. I think the sneaky sort of dirty thing about Trump is the truth of what he does is he always talks about, oh, CNN doesn't want me out. What would they talk about? You know, he knows exactly what he's doing and what he generates and what the people want to see. You know, there was that really distasteful thing that he said about veterans where he was like, they were going to have some American thing where he was going to speak at some event and they wanted to put veterans out. And he said, don't put any veterans who are amputees or people that are unsightly, which is like, it's just like, you know, you're shaking your head because it's like this really sort of like despicable thing to say. And the best of us, you go, yes, like absolutely, let's put them out. But what he's doing is he's going, no. He's like, I know what people want to see. I know how to do a presentation. I know how to put stuff out. I know what people like. And the uncomfortable thing is, in some regards, he's probably, that bet has paid off for him. Do you know what I mean? Like he kind of like openly says and deeps down into people's souls and sort of speaks to something that's really uncomfortable and sort of the worst of us. The things that we try to like shed as we get older and become more compassionate and have empathy and all of these things. And the reason that we look at certain leaders that sort of like, you know, promote healing and coming together and sort of lifting the lesser up. That's what we want. But deep down, it's like the reason people love Larry David and all of these sort of people is because we're all kind of secretly despicable or something. Does that make sense to you guys? I don't know. That's kind of
No, I completely agree. He definitely, and he gets away with it too. So in a weird way, it's like aspirational or something. You're like, oh, he just like lives his life with like no consequences. And it's like, that seems like a good time. Erica, how'd you find out?
My dad, so this broke on Thursday morning, was it? Thursday morning early? I guess.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, my dad poked his head in my room really early at like 7 a.m. And he was like, Trump has COVID. And I was like, oh my God, really? And then I like immediately woke up and like grabbed my phone and like started, obsessively reading Twitter and stuff too. But yeah, just shocking.
Yeah, it's also just so interesting because like, you know, rules just don't apply to Trump. Like Trump has always been able to do whatever he wanted. And it's like, and even with like a deadly contagious virus, he's like, no, I'm still going to go to this fundraiser. No, I'm still going to do this. Like, no, he's just like none of it. He's very selfish in that way, obviously. What any predictions for this week? Or if anything you think may happen?
He could die. Do you remember when bin Laden was killed? And then on the White House, they had this like, everyone was celebrating and there was like a beach ball bouncing around. And I remember watching it on TV. I was like, this is so weird to celebrate someone dying like that. And I was thinking if Trump dies, I wonder if people would curb their celebrations at all. Or if it would be even more intense and more like a Mardi Gras type vibe.
And, you know, what Shane is saying about people celebrating Osama bin Laden dying, that was a really visceral thing for people because obviously he masterminded ostensibly the attack, the 9/11 thing that killed over 3,000 Americans. So for them, it was like this cathartic thing. It's almost like death penalty or whatever, you know, eye for an eye. What's interesting to me about the Trump thing and the way that people view it is you've seen a lot of people, they'll say on Twitter, like, oh, you know, it's very taboo to say that you hope somebody dies and all that stuff. And whether you hope or not, it doesn't make it a reality. But the right has really jumped on the idea that people are being, they're not acting with decorum or the sort of the right amount of class when it comes to talking about the potential outcomes for Trump. What I find ironic is it's like if Joe Biden had gotten COVID, like, do you think Trump would hold back at all? Like, would he display the sort of like class and dignity that Joe Biden had displayed? And this gets back to this whole other thing where it's just like everybody plays by one set of rules and Trump plays by the other, but he seems to benefit from the world then sort of playing by like this one set of like sort of like a set of decorum or like sort of what we deem like acceptable when these things happen. But like the stuff that Trump said about, say, John McCain, or what he said about different veterans and things like that, it's like he doesn't give a shit. So like, you can think however you want to think about if people wish he dies or not, but for him to be outraged, or for his people to be outraged because some people would find it like a beneficial outcome, it's like, spare me, because it's like your side doesn't do any of that shit. You guys will say the most heinous stuff, and then you all of a sudden cry like you're being picked on if somebody feels that same way. And to the point about Osama bin Laden, like what Trump did, like with separating families at the border, the way that he sort of like reacted to the Puerto Rico situation with the hurricane. Like, there's people that probably would celebrate in that way because they feel he's directly responsible for their suffering, or in the case of COVID, death outright. So it's like, it is a nuanced conversation, but it does come down to like just like an easily sort of identifiable, like, you want him to die? You're a piece of shit human being. It's like, well, I don't know. What does Trump say as well? You know what I mean? It's like, I truly, personally, if you ask me, I don't want anybody to die. So I'm not like sitting here being like, I hope Trump dies. I do think about it more in the terms that you asked, Max. What are the repercussions? If he survives it, how does that affect the election? If he gets really sick and survives it, if he walks through this, like, there's all this sort of myriad of outcome that I'm fascinated by. But yeah, I don't think it's as cut and dry as like, if you want him to die, you're a shitty person. And if you don't, you know what I mean?
I agree. And I think it also kind of goes back to this idea is like, here's a person who didn't take it seriously at all, who ignored medical expertise. It's like when you see someone who is a gatekeeper or someone who's in charge of making decisions on a lot of people, like just be really dismissive. And then the thing that everyone's been warning them about has happened to them. You go, like, this is why you're a bad leader. And it's like, you had it coming. And again, this is not to say we wish death on him or, illness or anything. I don't think we do. Because as you say, Mike, we don't wish that upon anybody. But it is justice in a way or something. You know what I mean? It's just like, listen, like, you have been so ignorant to all this and so flippant to all this. And it's like, this is, chickens coming home to roost in a sense.
It feels like cosmic karma. But as I read, somebody tweeted this because it happened. And a lot of people online started being like, well, see, they all started feeling very sort of like tisk-tisking at Trump. You were going to get it. You didn't take it seriously. And he was like, there's a lot of clock left in the game. You know what I mean? Like, basically, it's like everybody's running around because it's a 20-point lead now or something. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's like, there's still a full month left. And this might end up seeming old in 2 weeks from now. Like Shane was saying, if Trump gets through this, his side's going to celebrate and hold him up like, some sort of like superhuman entity that survived this at 74 years old and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Shane, do you think that this will lead to like people dismissing the virus even more if he survives it?
It depends how he survives it. Like, Alyssa Milano got it and she's still dealing with the effects of it. Like hair loss and all that stuff. So if he's in seemingly better shape afterwards, or he goes on some diet and then he starts looking good and has more bounce in his step, it could totally backfire for the liberals, because then it'll seem like, oh, COVID's really not that bad. But if he's like in terrible shape and needs a walker afterwards or something, then it's going to make it seem like COVID's terrible. It's all how he comes out of it, right?
Last thing, guys. Did you guys see the tweet from his first tweet from the hospital? He basically said, where is it here? Going well, I think. Thank you to all. Love! Exclamation point. For somebody like copy and pasted it, and the second L in well is a capital I. Did you see that? And someone tweeted, it's like, what is he trying to tell us?
Yeah, how does that go wrong? That's weird.
Yeah, like I'm just like looking at the keyboard. It's like L and I don't understand how you get there. Going well, I think.
Because if it was the first L, it would make more
going
sense.
Well, but then he goes down to the comma. Going well, so WEL, capital I, down to the comma. I'm looking at my computer keyboard right now, and then space, I think. So maybe it's like between the well, I think. Mm-hmm. He had hit the I, and then he put the I again. I don't know. It's a weird one.
we do know he was on therapeutics and also like a steroid that can make you confused.
Does this make you guys take COVID more seriously? I'm looking at you, Max.
It does, actually.
What's that?
It does. It really does make me take it more seriously. Yeah. You know, if it can happen to the president of the United States, it can really happen to anybody.
Because you, Max, I'm not saying you weren't taking it seriously, but you were trying to organize some basketball games, and I have I have a chart that tells me the risk factors on various sports, and basketball is real high up on that list. So I didn't want to lecture you, but I have a graph I can send you, and we can maybe share that with our listeners. Tennis is very low, and even me, I feel like I'm taking undue risk playing tennis, but basketball is very high.
Okay.
You've been playing tennis?
Yeah.
Who are you playing tennis with?
With John, who's in my bubble, my father-in-law. Yeah. And we keep it very safe. But even like I'm being so precautious that I'm like, okay, what this ball, like, is it clean? Like, I don't know. The ground, I don't know. I'm just trying to be overly precautious.
Yeah, but if John's in your bubble, you can hoop with him. Yeah,
but breathing and I don't know. I don't like it. And then what if some guy comes over and asks to play American with us, and then it's awkward.